14-year-old accused of terrorizing and sexually assaulting two women in Memorial Park this summer will remain in custody.
As Brian Mastery reports, today a juvenile court judge ordered the state to start looking at group homes that specialize in dealing with young sex offenders.
We aren't sharing his name because when the alleged rape and sexual assault occurred near Memorial Park, he was 13. The system is dealing with him as a juvenile. But by any definition, the allegations are terrorizing. In July, investigators say he stole a car, approached two different women walking around the park, groped one of them, and later raped another. Investigators said he threatened the life of the other because she had seen his face. He took off, police said, when he heard sirens getting close. Today, the court learned his psychiatric and psychosexual risk assessments are complete and that the 14-year-old violated the rules of the youth center twice in the last month for fighting. Today, juvenile court judge Candace Novak ordered the parties involved to begin applying to therapeutic group homes in and out of state that specialize in sexually offending youth. He is not to be released from the Douglas County Youth Center, though, until after his hearing next month. On your side in Omaha, Brian Mastery, 6 News.
The teen's attorney tried to enter a plea of no contest. The judge said she wasn't sure if she would accept that. Remember, juvenile court is about rehabilitation, not punishment.